It was not the glare of the studio lights or the silence of a fading crowd that marked the loneliest day of her life. For Pat Molittieri, the turning point came on an ordinary school morning in 1959. After 2 dazzling years as one of American Bandstand's most magnetic teenagers, she found herself walking into a classroom instead of the dance floor. In her own words, published in Teen magazine, she called it the loneliest day of my life. That sentence captured both the heartbreak of leaving the stage and the bittersweet truth that youth, fame, and freedom are never permanent. Pat had been just 14 when she first stepped in front of the cameras, her dark hair and sparkling eyes instantly winning the affection of viewers across America. She danced with energy, flirted with the camera, and lived out every teenager's dream. Yet beneath the spotlight lay a fragile bargain, the promise of exposure, but never profit. When she broke that rule, her place in the Bandstand family vanished overnight. Between 1957 and 1959, few faces on American Bandstand captured the nation's imagination quite like Pat Molittieri. She was only 14 when she first appeared on the show, but her presence was magnetic. At 5 feet 3 inches, with dark brown hair and eyes that sparkled with mischief, she seemed to embody the spirit of post-war American youth, energetic, carefree, and ready to dance to the new rhythms of rock and roll. Viewers across the country quickly learned her name, and fan clubs began to spring up, with teenage girls copying her hairstyle and teenage boys admiring her charm. Pat was not just another dancer blending into the crowd. She commanded the camera, often paired with partners like Lou Salino, Bill Ettinger, or Billy Cook, each routine giving her an edge of individuality. She had a way of dancing that felt personal, like she was sharing a secret with the audience. This gift made her a household name in the growing world of teenage television idols. Her popularity soared even higher after a dramatic incident in August 1957. During one of the live broadcasts, Pat was suddenly struck with acute appendicitis and had to be rushed from the studio for emergency surgery. For a moment, her absence left fans worried and glued to their televisions, eager for updates on her recovery. When she returned, her resilience only deepened the affection viewers felt for her. It proved that she was not just a pretty face, but a young woman with determination and strength. In these years, Pat became what many called the Bandstand Girl. She symbolized the power of television to elevate ordinary teenagers into national figures almost overnight. Every time the camera found her, she radiated joy, embodying the optimism of the era. Yet even in these golden years, the seeds of change were quietly being sown. For while Pat thrived on the dance floor, her restless ambition was already pulling her toward writing, fashion, and the world beyond the studio walls. That hunger for something more would soon collide with the rigid rules of the program and alter her destiny forever. By the summer of 1959, Pat Molittieri had become one of American Bandstand's brightest stars. But the very qualities that made her irresistible on screen, her independence, her confidence, and her eagerness to explore new possibilities, were also what set the stage for her abrupt exit. Behind the scenes, Dick Clark maintained a strict rule. The teenage regulars could enjoy the fame of appearing on national television, but they were not allowed to profit from it. No paid endorsements, no personal deals, and certainly no writing for money. The unspoken contract was clear. Bandstand gave exposure, not a career. Pat, however, was ambitious. She had already begun contributing to Teen magazine, one of the era's most popular teen publications, offering stories about fashion, music, and the excitement of the dance floor. For her, it was not about breaking rules. It was about expanding her world, testing the limits of what a teenage girl from Southwest Philadelphia could achieve. When Dick Clark discovered that Pat was receiving payment for her columns, he saw it as a violation of the Bandstand Code. On June 24, 1959, after the show ended, he called her aside. The conversation was short and final. She would not be returning. Pat did not disappear quietly. In the October 1959 issue of Teen magazine, she published an article titled, "My Farewell to Bandstand." In it, she revealed her emotions with striking honesty. She confessed that the day she returned to school instead of going to the studio was, as she described, the loneliest day of my life. That single sentence resonated deeply with fans, crystallizing the bittersweet pain of being forced to leave behind something she loved so dearly. Her farewell was not just the story of one teenager leaving a television show. It was a symbol of the clash between youthful ambition and the rigid structures of the adult world. Bandstand wanted its dancers to remain innocent representatives of teenage culture, untouched by money or contracts. Pat wanted to express herself, to write, and to build on the fame she had earned. For that, she paid the price of exclusion. And yet, her words transformed her departure into something more powerful. Fans who read her farewell understood that she had not been broken by the decision. She had chosen to tell her story on her own terms, with her own voice. That act of defiance revealed a strength that would carry her into the next chapter of her life, a chapter set far away from the Philadelphia studios under the California sun. When Pat Molittieri left American Bandstand, many assumed her story was over. But in truth, she was only beginning a new chapter. Rather than retreat into anonymity, she embraced the opportunity to reinvent herself, and the place she chose to do it was California, a land that promised reinvention for anyone willing to take the risk. Pat's move west was not accidental. Her ties with Teen Magazine gave her a foothold in Los Angeles, where the magazine's headquarters were located. She continued to contribute regularly, writing about the fast-moving trends that captivated American teenagers. She even took on occasional babysitting duties for Charles Laffer, the magazine's publisher, a reminder that for all her fame, she was still just a young woman carving out a life in a new city. But beyond the magazine office, Pat was actively seeking ways to expand her talent. She enrolled at the Hollywood Professional School, a small but prestigious academy where young entertainers balanced academics with artistic pursuits. There, she crossed paths with other aspiring talents, from Mouseketeer Cubby O'Brien to the Idrissi brothers. It was a place where the line between ordinary student and future star was thin, and Pat fit right in. She was no longer simply the girl who had once danced on television. She was an artist among peers. California also brought opportunities in music and film. Pat recorded several songs for Teen Magazine's own label, including the Paul Anka composition, The USA. While the record never became a mainstream hit, today it is considered a collector's gem, proof that she had the courage to try her hand at singing as well as dancing. She even stepped briefly into Hollywood, appearing as an extra in the 1960 film Where the Boys Are. Though her role was small, it was another testament to her determination to stay connected to the entertainment world. Perhaps most importantly, Pat found in California a chance to explore who she was beyond the camera's gaze. She modeled in fashion shoots, posed in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater, and lived in a world where possibilities stretched far beyond the dance floor of Philadelphia. For a girl who once thought the loneliest day of her life was leaving Bandstand, California offered a new kind of fulfillment, a stage without boundaries. Yet even under the glamour of Hollywood lights, another destiny was quietly forming. It was not in the recording studio or in the movies that Pat would find her greatest role. It would be in the bonds of family and in a love story that would change her life forever. In California, Pat Molittieri was surrounded by lights, cameras, and endless possibilities, but her heart would ultimately be captured not by Hollywood, but by a quiet, genuine love. In 1963, while celebrating a friend's birthday at a club in Drexel Hill, she met Victor Ranieri. He was not part of the entertainment industry, not dazzled by television fame. In fact, when they first began dating, he had little idea that Pat had once been a household name on American Bandstand. That innocence made their bond feel real, untouched by the frenzy of celebrity. Their courtship was short, but filled with affection. A story often recalled by family illustrates how Victor first realized the scale of Pat's fame. He once placed a collect call, and the operator asked, "Pat Molittieri, from American Bandstand?" Only then did he begin to understand just how many people knew the young woman he loved. But to him, she was never simply a TV star. She was warm, thoughtful, and ready to leave the spotlight for something more lasting. In September 1965, Pat and Victor were married. She was only 22 years old, yet already had lived a life more public than most. With marriage, she made a conscious decision. She would step away from her pursuits in entertainment and instead devote herself to being a wife and mother. For a woman who had once thrilled millions of viewers, It was a radical choice, but also a courageous one. It meant giving up the chase for fame in order to build the life she valued most. Together, Pat and Victor welcomed two daughters. Their first, Delaine Patricienne, carried both her mother's name and that of her grandmother. A few years later, their second daughter, Dana, was born. These children became the center of Pat's world, a new stage on which she poured her energy, love, and creativity. Friends recall that while she still had connections to her old bandstand circle and to the entertainment world, she spoke most proudly of her family. For Victor, Pat's decision was a gift. He would later say that she had given up more than most people realized: opportunities, recognition, and perhaps even stardom to create a home with him. In his quiet way, he understood what she had left behind, and he treasured the life they built together. Their love story was not written in the lights of Hollywood, but in the steady rhythm of everyday devotion. On July 7, 1979, the life that Pat Molittieri had so carefully built came to a sudden and devastating halt. The 4th of July holiday had just passed, and her home in Philadelphia was filled with the ordinary rhythm of summer. Two young daughters playing, a husband providing for the family, a mother enjoying the simple joys of parenthood. Then, without warning, Pat collapsed. At first, 9-year-old Delaine and 6-year-old Dana thought their mother was pretending, playing some kind of game. But within moments, Delaine realized something was terribly wrong. She pressed her ear to her mother's chest and heard no heartbeat. Frantic, she ran to fetch a neighbor named Rose. The ambulance came quickly, but time was slipping away. As the paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher, Pat found the strength to speak one last time. She looked at her daughters and said softly, "You girls be good." The two children, their voices trembling, replied together, "Yes, Mom, we love you." Those were their final words exchanged. At the hospital, doctors could not save her. The cause was later determined to be mitral valve prolapse, a congenital heart condition that had silently threatened her life. She was just 36 years old. It fell to Victor to deliver the news. In a phone call from the hospital, his voice breaking, he told the girls, "Your mom went to heaven and told me to tell you and Dana to be good girls." In that moment, childhood ended abruptly for both daughters. Delaine would later reflect that her mother's passing forced her to grow up instantly, carrying a weight no child should have to bear. For Victor, the loss was immeasurable. A man still in his 30s, he suddenly faced life as a widower and single father. Yet, he chose not to remarry, devoting himself entirely to raising Delaine and Dana. His quiet mantra became, "Take one day at a time." Through that strength, he kept his family intact, honoring Pat not by moving on, but by carrying forward the love she had given them. Though Pat Molittieri left this world in 1979, her presence has never faded. Her family, especially her husband Victor and their daughters, carried her memory forward with quiet devotion. Victor, true to his word, raised Delaine and Dana alone, never seeking another partner, never replacing the woman he had loved so deeply. To friends in the extended bandstand community, he became the embodiment of resilience, gentle, steady, and defined by his unwavering loyalty. His philosophy, take one day at a time, guided his daughters through grief and became a family creed. As the years passed, Delaine grew into the role of family representative at American Bandstand reunions and reading dance parties. Alongside her husband, Colin Devlin, and their 3 sons, she honored her mother's place in the bandstand story. Dana, before her untimely passing in 2016, also carried the flame, raising her children Sean and Kylie with the same warmth she had inherited from Pat. Today, Kylie often attends reunions with her Aunt Delaine, a living link between the bandstand generation and a new era. Through her, the spirit of Pat, her energy, her laughter, her charm, still finds its way onto the dance floor. Photos of 3 generations tell the story in ways words cannot. Pat as a radiant teenager before Grauman's Chinese Theater. Pat as a young bride beside Victor in 1965. Pat holding her daughters in Philadelphia. Later come images of Victor at reunions, smiling quietly as grandchildren dance where their grandmother once stood. Each photograph is a reminder that fame is fleeting, but love, when nurtured, becomes eternal. In the broader American Bandstand community, Pat remains a symbol of both joy and fragility. Fans remember her smile, her graceful dancing, and her honest farewell that spoke of loneliness, yet revealed immense courage. Her legacy is not just in old kinescopes or rare 45s, but in the family that still gathers, still remembers, and still celebrates the young woman who once made America dance. The story of Pat Molittieri is one of dazzling light and sudden shadows, of dreams pursued and sacrifices made. From the moment she stepped onto the dance floor at 14, she gave America a glimpse of youthful joy that still lingers in the memories of those who watched her. From the loneliest day she described in 1959 to the final words she gave her daughters 20 years later, her life was defined by honesty, courage, and love. Pat's journey reminds us that fame is fleeting, but the choices we make echo far longer. She walked away from cameras and microphones to build a home, and in doing so, she created a legacy more enduring than television applause. That legacy lives on in Delane, in Dana's children, in Victor's quiet strength, and in the community of fans who still whisper her name with affection. So perhaps the loneliest day was not the end, but the beginning of a story that now belongs to all of us. And we are left to wonder, if you had to choose between fame and family, which path would you follow?